Okay, good morning. This is Dottie with the Tollway, and we're going to talk about closing up the back of a shadow box piece of art, Papertole art. This piece is this little guy, and it was done by someone else and was not done correctly in my point of view. This is what she used. These are called glazing points. They stick in this way. So basically, the top of this point sticks up past the shadow box or at the edge of the shadow box. And the problem with this is that if you notice, the piece of art basically doesn't fill up the entire section all the way level with the top of the box. So what that creates is an edge that over time will tear because there's a gap, or will just sink in and it doesn't look very professional. So what I have done is I have taken it out. This piece of foam core is not exactly cut to fit the box. It's a little short, but we're gonna correct that problem. So what I used are framers points, and they are put in with this type of a gun. You can buy these on eBay, used everywhere. This one happens to be a Logan. I can't find a model number or anything on this thing, but it only shoots framers points. And framers points are rigid. They come in little sections together like this, and when you pull the gun up, they will only slide in one direction into the gun. And mine is full, so I'm not going to be able to put any more in there. The other advantage to these things is that they don't bend. They will stay in place, and you can adjust the tension, how far the point goes into your shadow box, depending on whether it's a hardwood or a softwood, by twisting this little screw at the back. And that causes more or less tension on the point, which causes it to shoot in further or less. So I've put most of them in. I'm going to go ahead and put one more there and one more here. And the object of that is to keep the art in the box. Because we have such a gap, and because the framers points are flush with the foam core, I have cut a piece of mat board that will fit in and cover most of the gap. It won't be perfect, but it will be a lot closer than what was there before. So I'm going to put this in whichever direction it fills the gap the best, which is probably that way. And to hold this in, I'm not going to do any more framers points. I'm going to take 924 ATG tape. This is Scotch 924 ATG tape. And so I am going to put some of that onto my piece of foam core, this is very sticky tape, and it will hold my piece of mat board in to complete finishing this piece so that it goes to the top of the box so we don't have a gap. And they make guns for this stuff, but I've just personally never used them. When you use ATG tape, one side will lift easier than the other. And so if you find the side that lifts easy, you just peel it away from itself and it will come off, leaving this. It's a filament tape. It's very fine and it is sticky on both sides when you put it down. So I'm going to put this tape down, and then I am going to lay my piece of mat board down, and this will keep the mat board in place. This is a 3/4 inch tape. I don't use 3/4 inch tape for many things, but I do use it for this just because it's wider, it has a bigger hold, and it will keep our piece of mat board in place. The ATG tape can be purchased online at the Tollway, which is tollway.com or papertole.com. So now that I have this down, I'm going to put my piece of mat board in, and we're going to push it so that it goes into the box. So now I have a very small gap all the way around the piece of mat board, but it's not a big gap. So if you're concerned with that gap, what you can do is run masking tape along the edge. Just be sure that you keep it very close to the edge because you don't want to get it up onto your box. because you have to put your ATG tape on there to hold the paper on. So now I have 1/2 inch, and I'm going to take that and put it at the edge of the box and onto the mat board. And I want to make sure that it goes to the edge of the box, because I want to make sure when I put my paper down, either brown or black paper, whatever you're using, that it adheres all the way to the edge of the paper. So if you put your tape all the way to the edge of the box, whatever is excess will come off when you put your paper down. So now I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to run my finger along to make sure that it connects both to the box and to the mat board in the back. And then I'm going to pull this up. If you find that it hangs over, if you just brush your hand along the edge of the box, it will push the tape surface back onto the box, and it won't be hanging over. So I'm just going to pull all these off because I have run my finger on them. I'm sure that they're attached to both the mat board and the box. Now I'm going to get brown paper. Excuse me while I disappear for a second. When you're using brown paper, there are lots of places to buy it. You can actually buy it at the Dollar Tree in rolls, and it's like $1.25 for a roll. It's not a big roll, but it's a big enough roll to get quite a few pictures out of it. Now I'm going to lay this down, run my hand on it, then I'm going to go around the edge and crease it. If you have a lot where it ends at your roll, I usually just cut it off pretty close to the box, because I don't want a lot of paper hanging over the box that I'm going to have to trim off with my dust cover trimmer. And that is exactly what it is called. It's called the dust cover trimmer, because in framing, this paper on the back of art is called the dust cover. So I'm going to go around and crease it so that it makes it easier for my cutter to go. The one I have you can't buy anymore. I bought this one online. This is a Logan dust cover trimmer. Framing for Yourself has these for sale. I think they're $14. They all work the same way in that there's an edge that goes against your box, and there's a blade that comes out that cuts through the paper. I haven't ever used this one before, but we'll give it a shot. I don't like this one as well. Okay. You have to watch these, especially that one. It didn't cut well for me. But I've never used it before, so it's one of those things I think practice makes perfect. But the object of a dust cover cutter is to cut your back paper in a fashion that is even, and it's much easier than trying to do it with a straight edge and a ruler. Except for that part. Okay, so their trimmer cuts in quite a bit further than the one I have is. But whenever you use any kind of a trimmer to take this paper off, you're going to have sticky tape on the back. The monofilament tape is on the back of the paper. So I normally pull it toward the box, toward the center of the box. If you have any that sticks and doesn't come up, the object of doing this is you want it to pull off any excess tape you have. If you find that it doesn't take it off, if you just roll your finger, this particular piece of art had a paper on the back before. So that makes it a little prone to holding on to the tape when you try and redo it, because this one was really bad. So that's all you do. I'm going to try this cutter again. I haven't ever used one before. So let me see if I'm just not, I don't know if that's cutting or not. No. I think you're going to have to put it up at an angle to run these cutters. This one cuts a little wider band. And I didn't check the blade on this to see if it was new or old. It came in the cutter. So it works basically the same way. It cuts a line that's the same width all the way down. And then if you pull it back this way, all of the excess sticky on the back of that will be on your tape and not on your box. So let me turn this way. And I think I'm going to get a new blade for this thing. Or maybe I'm going to turn it around. Let me show you how you can do this. This has a little set screw, and when you take it out, you can take the cover off and you can turn this blade the other direction. Oh, well, that could be part of the problem. I just took this out of the box. There apparently comes with 3 blades, so that could be the problem why it's not cutting great. Okay, so if you put this back down and then you put your cover on, there's 2 marks. Blade means the blade is out. If you slide it to safe, that blade is covered so you can't cut your fingers, which is a good option. Okay, since we only have 1 blade, let's see how much better this will now cut. There's a lesson for you. Take it apart, because it came with 3 blades when I bought it, but I didn't realize that. So now we're going to try with 1 blade. Well, that looks a lot better. It's not making bumps and lumps. But it is a little bit wider cut than the one mine makes. Okay, and because we've had the monofilament tape on this box before, and I just pulled it off, you're going to find that it's going to adhere more than it would if it was a clean shadow box. But there you go. So if you have anything that's extra, if you just run your finger on it, it'll just roll right up off of the box for you. So then we're going to turn this again. This works fine, and it's got a good grip. There's a good way to hold it. So if you just put it down and run it down the box, we'll get down here where it chumped it up a little bit. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a sticky part here because this had a cover attached to it before, and I didn't clean the box really well. I just pulled the old tape off. And you'll find that this ATG tape really holds. And if you come back a little bit later and try and pull this up, it doesn't come up. It will hold really well, much better than any other kind of tape you can use. And because it's sheer, it just kind of disappears. If you have a little bit that's sticky, that holds on, just go back over it, roll it up with your finger. That's the easiest way to get the ATG tape off of the box. Because what you're looking for here is a nice clean line. And this is the one that I cut the first time. It's a little wonka. So let me see if I can get an edge come up here. So this is what you do when you do it wrong. You just keep working at it, and it will eventually roll up and come off, and it'll leave a nice clean straight line. So when you look at the back of your art, you want it to look like it was done at Michael's or Hobby Lobby or any professional framer. And that's what this does. It gives you the opportunity to make a clean back. So because I put that piece of mat board in the back, my paper is pretty much even with the edge of my box, so I don't have an area that's going to sink in and start to look bad over time. Okay, that's it.